In this video, follow along as we remove the hand wheel, the slide plate and needle plate, the feed dogs, the bobbin case, and the bobbin case positioning bracket, and fully disassemble them from this lovely Singer 99. Let's get started. So we'll start by removing the bobbin area parts, and then we are going to go ahead and take the hand wheel off as well. Starting with the slide plate here. This slide plate, it slides out towards you. However, it should stop at a certain point. That's because you're not supposed to pull it off this way. Actually, you're going to slide it out just a little bit, and it should kind of rock. So if I'm putting pressure here on this end, you can see it's rocking up. You want to kind of rock it up a little bit, grasp it with your fingers, and then slide it towards the needle plate until it comes off this way. There we go. That wasn't easy. This is really tight, but this is our slide plate. And now I can show you the reason why it's not going to pull off in this direction is we have this little spring type clip here that's in the grooves of this slide plate. And you see the groove curves like this. So once it gets this far, the groove starts to curve in, not allowing this to pass over the clip that's here on the end of the machine. So always lift it up a little bit, pull it this way, and it will come off. Now let's get the needle plate off as well. So to remove the needle plate, just 2 screws. They're just left to loosen. 1 screw, repeat with the other side. 2 screws. Now you should be able to just lift the needle plate up and off of your machine. And we're going to clean this later. Set that aside. Now here is the bobbin case, the bobbin case positioning bracket. Once we get these out, we'll be able to see our hook really well. Here are the feed dogs. I want to go ahead and take these off now. And so in order to do that, I need to flip the machine over. Now there is 1 screw right here. If you look under your machine, you're going to see this whole oscillating hook system here, the bell crank and everything. But right here, coming off of this rock shaft, there's another arm coming out, and right at the end here is a screw. You want to take that one out. You kind of have to go in at an angle because this sort of blocks your reach, but this is just left to loosen, and this screw comes out, and just 1 screw for holding in the feed dogs. Set that aside. Now the feed dog, this one I know is going to be a little stuck, but I can flip the machine over. I should be able to just pull it from the top. It's kind of pinching and wiggling. Here we go. Some very crusty, yucky feed dogs. They need to be cleaned. Let's put those aside. Now we can get an even better look at the bobbin and hook area on this machine. So this is the bobbin case, and in order to remove it, do you see how this little finger comes out like this on the bobbin case positioning bracket? If you lift this finger up and slide it to the right, it frees up just enough room where you should be able to wiggle this bobbin case free. There we go, just like that. Look at this. So I know sometimes it seems like a lot of cleaning on these machines, but this isn't going to work properly with all of this caked up, nasty grease and oil. We want to take this off so the machine sings when we're done. So now we have the bobbin case. We're going to take it apart a little bit further in a moment. We're going to remove these screws, but for now, set that aside. So the next thing that we want to remove is the bobbin case positioning bracket itself. Now, how do we do that? It's going to involve removing this screw right here. You see this tiny little screw? We need to take that out. So I feel like I'm going to need downward pressure. So I've kind of propped this up. There we go. Now let's take this screw all the way out. I want to show you what it looks like. There is a pin on the bobbin case positioning bracket that this is actually pressing up against, sort of like a set screw. So if you look, see how long it is. It's threaded, and this end is pressing against a pin on the bottom of the bobbin case positioning bracket. Now this might be a little bit hard to see, but up in here, right where this brass pin is touching, you see a silver circle. That, and you may have to rotate your hook so the bell crank is out of the way for you. This is the bottom part of the bobbin case positioning bracket. And I actually, just by pushing on it with that pin, thankfully it was loose enough since we took the screw out, it just fell out. You may have to like tap on that a little bit, depending on how much caked in oil and grease there is. So use a pin like this or a punch of some kind, and you can lightly tap it out if you need to, but make sure you have that first screw out. Make sure you took the screw out first. Now to remove the hand wheel, we're going to start here with the stop motion knob. We have to remove the screw in the stop motion knob. It's just left to loosen. This one's pretty cruddy. I can see stuff falling as I unscrew it. This is just a little screw that comes out. This is the screw for our stop motion knob. Now we'll grab this hand wheel, hold it still, grab the knob, turn it counterclockwise, and then just unscrew it until it comes all the way off in your hand. Right behind it is a stop motion washer. That's going to come off as well. And then we should be able to just pull the hand wheel right off. So let's talk about this. This is the bobbin case positioning bracket. We just removed it by loosening this screw here, which is in the nose of the machine, kind of on the underside. When we loosen that, we're able to punch on this little post right here and push it up and out through the top. When it's in the machine, the bobbin case, this is the bobbin case, presses kind of up against the positioning bracket. Now, the positioning bracket's doing a couple things. First of all, the ejector button, which is this little button right here, moves on a spring, and that's how we can push the bobbin out of the bobbin case, so we can pick it up out of the case when we want to change the color thread or add more thread to the bobbin itself. This little part right here where we see red, this has a felt on it, usually that sticks out a little ways, and we oil that from time to time, and that keeps our hook race oiled for us. This one is pretty much gone, and I have a feeling it's going to be hard to get out, but I am going to replace that. But anyway, so these parts work together. When the thread is traveling around, when the needle thread is traveling around because the hook has caught it, it's going around the bobbin case, it gets to this point right here, and the clearance between this little spring and the bobbin case needs to be just the right amount. So A, it's not too much, we don't get a sloppy stitch, but B, it's not too little and it catches and it won't even pass through. So there's a little bit of a setting here that we need to talk about before we go much further. I'm going to disassemble this fully. And I would say if you're doing this as a one-time project on a machine that you have, if you're not comfortable with doing this step, please don't do it. I'm going to take this apart and I'm going to clean it out, get all the lint out. Actually, I've already taken this apart once and put it back together, just so you know. But this is kind of a frustrating piece. I would say on the whole machine, this one is the most finicky, and it takes multiple tries sometimes to get it back together. Could I just clean this the way that it is? Yes, especially if I had access to, say, compressed air or something like that. I could wash this up, blow it out really good, hit it with a hairdryer, and call it a day. So I'm going to leave that up to you, but I want to fully disassemble the bobbin case positioning bracket. If you've ever watched other videos on a Singer 99 or a Singer 66, this screw right here is often called the screw of death. The only reason why it's not hard to put the screw back in or take it out necessarily, it's just that once this screw is loosened, and I've loosened it just a little bit, you get a little give right here. And this is what is affecting the clearance on our little spring. So when the thread is passing by, it can be either a lot of clearance or just a little bit. And there's actually a specific number that it needs to be, a range that we need to have between this spring here and the bobbin case. And so really what it comes down to is when we're tightening down this screw of death, if you will, we need to make sure that this is in the right position. And if you have a feeler gauge, you can do that. It's not hard. So if you want to stop at this point and not disassemble this, that's fine. There's no judgment. I'm making these videos so anyone can work on their Singer 99. I'm going to take it apart. I'll start right here and go ahead and take this spring off. This acts as like a cushioning spring. So just the right size screwdriver, and every screw here is left to loosen. This is a little short little screw. We're going to take it off, pull off the spring. And you can see how dirty this is. Now thread isn't traveling through here. So technically, you know, this grime isn't going to make a difference as far as catching up thread or anything. But I'm going to take that off. Then I will go ahead and let's just get rid of the screw of death next. And I'm just going to loosen this. And I already have removed this once, and I will say the first time it was pretty stuck, but this time shouldn't be. So we're going to pull this off. Here's my little screw of death. And see, that's why I want to do this. Set those two aside. Now, the next part that I want to take off is this lever here. And to be honest, to me, this is the most fiddly part to put back together, not the screw of death, because I have a feeler gauge that can help me get my setting right so my clearances are right. This part, when I put this back together, is going to take a little bit more work. On this spring, we have first of all, we have a screw that goes all the way through this lever, which has two holes, one on each side of the lever, and the spring is in the middle, and then the screw goes all the way through into this part of the bobbin case positioning bracket. So when we put it all together on this spring, there's one little arm that's coming up in this cutout, and there's another little arm that's wrapping around the back of the lever. Those all have to be lined up properly so you can put the screw back in, and because it's a spring, you're going to be working with that tension. It's going to be working against you, actually. So it's a little bit fiddly, and it took me about 15 minutes or so to get this back together after I took it apart the first time. But I want to take this screw right here, if you can see it right there, I want to take that out. Only the top part of this screw is threaded. The rest is just a post that can go through this lever and the spring and into the rest of the bracket itself. This one's pretty gunky. There we go. Okay, see? Post, threaded end. And then the lever, I should be able to just wiggle away. Now my lever is free, and my spring, which gives me the springiness so I can pop that bobbin out, is also free right here. And then what we have left is just this part right here. This is held down into place with this right here. When the screw is down, this little post here that it catches on can't go anywhere, but we'll set that aside. So I'm going to clean all of this. Last, I'm going to unscrew this little spring here that holds the felt. And you may be able to just pull or twist the felt out if you have enough to grab. This one's pretty packed in here. I'm not even going to try to get it out on camera, but I can tell you what it's going to involve. It's going to involve some picking, with a pick, and then I probably will lay this on a block of wood, and I will slide a razor blade in between each of these little gaps in the spring, cut it up so it breaks up a little bit easier for me. We're going to take this out and put a new one in. So those are all the parts to the bobbin case positioning bracket. I'm just going to move them aside for a moment. And the last thing we want to take apart for this video is the rest of the bobbin case. Now this I would recommend taking apart if you are able and you have the right size screwdrivers, because the lint and stuff that gets stuck behind the spring here on the bobbin case actually will mess with the tension, your lower tension for your bobbin case. So I like to take this spring off and clean behind it and polish it up. So it doesn't matter which screw you take off first, but there will be 2 screws. They're different sizes, so you don't have to worry about mixing these 2 screws up. It will be very obvious when you put it back together which one goes where. I think that's unscrewed. It's just kind of stuck there. Let's move to the next one. You really just have to turn this to get the best leverage that you can with these little screws, and try not to stab yourself. And the next one, this one popped right out. I think I'll be able to just pull this spring away, and that other little screw kind of flew off camera. So I have 2 little screws that holds the spring on, and I don't see too much lint there. But this right here, this is going to keep me from ever adjusting my tension properly for my bobbin case. So that's why I want to take that apart. That will affect my final stitch. So what did we take off? We removed the slide plate, the needle plate, and the 2 screws. We removed the feed dog, which was just held on with 1 screw. We pulled out the bobbin case. Don't forget, we have this little spring, this tension spring for the bobbin case, and 2 tiny screws that hold it on. One keeps it in place. The other one's going to adjust the tension, which we'll look at when we put it back together. And finally, the bobbin case positioning bracket, which was first by removing this set screw, and then we have all these pieces to the bobbin case positioning bracket itself, including this post. This is the post that goes down into the body of the machine. The spring, which is going to be like a cushioning spring. Our little finger that sort of keeps the bobbin case positioning bracket in place, but also holds the screw of death, the lever, the ejector lever, and its spring and screw. Here's the screw of death itself. This was the screw that held on the cushioning spring, and of course the spring that holds our felt, which we will be replacing. Then we also took off the hand wheel. Here we have the hand wheel that we removed, the stop motion knob, washer, and screw. That's a lot of parts. In our next video, we are going to remove the hook itself, but we're also going to be working underneath this machine. And that means we're not just going to take out the hook, but we're going to be removing the bell crank and all of the parts of the oscillating hook system. So that's what we'll be doing next. We are getting very close. We have the bead regulator to remove and a few more parts, but we're getting really close to getting everything off this machine. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your patience as I make these videos as part of the 99 restoration series. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. I look forward to seeing you guys again really soon. Bye.